So, we have done ELPIS. We have done, I believe, the Light Wardens. We have done other things regarding pronunciation and all those things. What if I told you that Zodiark himself, the one and only, the final boss of the game, which is not really a final boss, but you actually defeat him at level 83, is Greek himself, and almost every single ability that he does is in Greek. Of course, Astral Flow is not that's ability. This is why I said almost, because there's an ability called Astral Flow, and the Astral Flow is that ability that he doesn't do in Greek, but everything else is actually in Greek. And we will start with the most, in my opinion, deep dive word, Kokytos. Unavoidable raid-wide damage, leaving all party members with 1 HP. Now, what is Kokytos? What does it mean? Now, you can use it in modern Greek as a synonym, as a poetic synonym when it comes to the word pain, suffering, terrible emotions, right? But of course, Final Fantasy XIV being Final Fantasy XIV, it's deeper than that. Why don't I take you on a journey to ancient Greek mythology, where we talk about, as you guys may imagine, Kokytos. Kokytos, from the ancient Greek verb kokio, which means scream in pain and weep. According to the Greek mythology, was a river, one of the rivers that strolled through Hades. Not Hades the god, but the underworld. So, Kokytos, what is it? What is Kokytos? One of the rivers of the underworld. It was filled, it was full of corpses. It was full of the dead. Pain, suffering. If you would just jump into the river, you will feel such intense pain. It was utterly horrendous to experience. And that is why I believe you're left with 1 HP. But why don't we deep dive a little bit more? You see, Homer, in Odyssey, he mentioned that it would become one with Periphlegyethonda. Periphlegyethondas, by the way, comes from the Greek word piri and phlego. It means the river that was on fire, okay? And together, they would go through the very noisy waterfall into Acheronda, Acheron, another river of the underworld. Actually, the river that led through the gates of the underworld. You can actually visit that in Greece. The river has so cold waters that if you go in, you will have a shock, Like, actually, it's not... Of course, it's not a river that leads you to the dead, but it is a very, very cold water, okay? So, we have what it is right here. I will not give you guys all the knowledge right here. I mean, I guess I could, right? Actually, I will. Let's talk. In the Platonic dialogue, Phaedon, this is the dialogue, it is a work of Plato himself, okay? It is talked as the river where you would put in the people that were man-killers. And, but, hear me out, the man-killers, not the ones that have committed patricide or mitricide, those would go into Periphlegyethonda, which is, like I said, the river that is on fire, the one with the suffering. It was, according to the legend, not for the criminals that could not be forgiven. Those would always just be casted into the Tartarus. Tartarus is the Greek version of hell, right? But for those that had acted out of rage. So, for example, let's say that, I don't know, someone does a terrible thing at you, like beating the bejesus out of your sister, and you see red, and anger befalls you, and you kill them. Because what you did, it's not really justified, but because you acted on an impulse, you will be dropped into the one that I told you, into the Kokytos river, Whereas, like, if you were a terrible human being, someone that just murders, someone that just rapes and pillages for fun, you would go into the Tartarus, and in the Acheron river, where you would suffer for all eternity. Like, in Greece, even the suffering for all eternity had redeeming qualities. You see, if you were a rapist and you would go into the Tartarus, you would beg your victims for forgiveness. And if they forgave you, you would leave the Tartarus So like it's not just one god judges you, it is unironically the victim. If it can forgive you, you will be forgiven and you will leave your hell. By the way, he had a wife, you know, Kokytos, and her name was Minthi, which had caused the erotic interest of Hades, even though because of that, Persephone, Hades' wife, became very vengeful towards her, and Dimitra. So the different rivers are sort of circles of hell. Yes, very much indeed, a very good parallel approach right there. What not Plato, but Platonas. Or Platonas, that is his name, you know, the Plato. I don't know how you call it in English, I just know the Greek version, right? Alas, we move away from Kokytos and we move to Paradeigma. By the way, I will be addressing the chat after I am done with this part of the stream, because I believe that you guys want to focus more on the learning right now and a bit less on me addressing your comments. I will address all of them though. Paradeigma summons a series of tokens which have different shapes of AoE damage depending on the token. The important part here is for me to point out that Paradeigma means example in Greek. Exactly, like in modern Greek and in ancient Greek, it means just like that. It's typed, as you guys can see this, it would be P alpha rho alpha delta, we don't have D, delta epsilon iota EI, right? Gma, as it is. He makes an example. I mean, is it a stretch to say that he actually makes an example? You know, like the bird token does X, the behemoth token does Y, snake token does Z. So like all the ones that you get are an example. Styx. Fellas, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back into the ancient Greece. For it is time to speak about another river of Hades, of the underworld. Groups like magic damage hitting multiple times in succession. It starts with 6 hits, and every time it's cast, it will hit one more time. Styga, also known as Styx in ancient Greek, is one of the other rivers of the underworld. But wait! There is more! You see, she was the Archegone. Thonia, how do I translate that? She was a bit insidious. Goddess. She was repulsive and utterly terrible. She was the prosopopisi. She was the she was the picture of the same name river of Hades. So like it has two perspectives, right? On the one hand, you have the goddess, who is truly repulsive, and on the other hand, you have the river of the underworld. Styx was the daughter of Okeanos, that would be translated to ocean in English, right? Who in turn was the son of Uranos, Uranus, you know, and Gaia, and Tithios. Tithios is just a person in the Greek mythology, right? Or the daughter of darkness and the night. So Styx, you have like, this is how you address this, you know, like, what I'm saying is, it has two different perspectives. She's either the daughter of Okeanos and Tithios, or the daughter of darkness and night. Now, from Zeus, she had Persephone, and from Palanda, she had Nike, Zilo, and Kratos. You guys know and understand Kratos if you have played God of War. Yes, it is. It's not Kratos. It's not the guy Kratos. It is Kratos. It is an embodiment. It's not a person. It is a state, okay? And via, which could mean two things, okay? On the one hand, via comes from vios, means zoe, meaning life, but on the other hand, via means violence. This is how it comes in this case. Her children from Palanda were Aeginos and Scylla. Scylla and Charybdis, or Charybdi, were the two mythological figures that we later find out in Odyssey. The ones truly nasty beasts. She was one with many heads. She would just bite and chew and do terrible things to the poor sailors that went through the chasm. Why am I deeping dive in Styx? Because she's both a goddess and a river, as I said. And it's imperative for me to mention what a truly terrible creature this goddess was. By the way, according to another version, her husband was Piras, and they created a child called Echidna. You guys know, you have seen NPCs with that title, right? Why don't I tell you the lore of Styga? Styga resided away from from the other gods in the deep darks of Hades, inside very very high columns made out of silver. That was her palace. Her palace was surrounded by silver columns, right? She went up in Olympus only once, okay? When she and her children went there to help Zeus against the fight against the Titans. When he won, he rewarded her. He actually rewarded her. She asked that the gods give a sacred vow to her name, and then he invited her children to come and live with him in Olympus. You know, so Kratos and via violence would become, and they would live in Olympus from that point onward, where they would live as executioners of the decisions that Zeus would take. So, if we go back into the river, of course, it is one of the biggest, one of the greatest rivers of the underworld, which was part of the ocean, as I said, right? It is important that you would never want to go into any river of the underworld, you know? Mostly because the water of Styx, they would destroy and demolish anything that would fall inside. So it's not like Kokytos, where you would suffer. It's not like Periplegomenos, I don't remember his name exactly, where you would burn. Here, if you fall inside, you get destroyed, you get obliterated. You're reduced, you don't exist, okay? However, it is time for me to mention a few things, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for me to just give you one extra detail, and after that we will move away from Styx. Thetis. Do you guys know Thetis? What if I told you Thetis was the mother of Achilles? She took her son and she dipped him into the river Styx, which meant that that's why he could not be destroyed. Of course, in order to not drop the baby and lose the baby into the depths, into the waters of this horrendous river, she had to keep him from somewhere. Where did she keep her son from? Well, by his heel, of course, right? So by holding him from his heel, the entire body of Achilles was invincible, unkillable, immortal, except for his vulnerability, the heel. So yeah, we're not gonna deep dive even further, but yeah, it is what it is, fellas. However, I have more. Ania. Okay, this is gonna be a bit of a disappointment coming from all this epic stuff. Ania is the state of innate boredom in Greek. No, it's not depression, it's not sadness or sorrow. Have you ever been there and you're just too bored to do anything? Like, you want to, but you don't wanna, and you're just there, too bored to do anything at all whatsoever? Not because you have something bad, but because you're bored. Yeah, that's what Ania is. In direct contrast to Ania, which means the state of Gerodiki Ania is dementia, okay? But it would not be typed with a iota. I believe it's typed with an omicron iota, O and I, okay? So this is Ania, it is boring. Exoterikos, this means external in Greek. Exoterikos comes from the Greek word exo. Exo means outside, alright? So it is quite literally just outside. I was trying to, when I was fighting Zodiark, I was trying to use my knowledge of the Greek language to avoid the outside parts of the platform. Unfortunately, it's not how it works, so I ended up dying. But then we got my Guildmaster, 99 Blue Rabbit, and he carried us. We gave him the Dorito marker, and we always stuck in the Dorito, and then we were safe. Now, why don't we go a bit deeper? Let's start with Algedon. Zodiark will move to one of the two font corners and use a large line AoE that will knock players off the arena if hit. The only safe spots are the two corners that are not Zodiark's and the corner across from hits. What do you guys think Algedon means? Why don't I tell you? Algedon. It is an ancient Greek. Actually, it is Algedon. It is female. In Greece and in ancient Greek, our words have genders. Okay, it is Algedon, tis Algedonos, ti Algedoni, and so on and so forth. It means pain, emotional or physical. But the important part, and where I want to focus, is this part, Odini. Odini is intense pain in Greek. It is anguish. It's not just a pain that like, ow, my hand hurts. It's anguish, like suffering. That's what it hints, you know? And why don't I read some of you guys something from not ancient Greek, but not modern Greek either. It is Katharevousa, something that we spoke about. I think we stopped speaking Katharevousa in about 50-ish years ago, when it was like just removed and Δημοτική became the canon one. Ο φίλος μου λησμονήσα στα Αλγεδόνας που είχεν ήδη εγέρθει και με παρετήρη με οφθαλμούς εκθάμβους. Okay, this is like my friend who forsaked his suffering which was bestowed upon him, and he just looked at me with very, very glowing eyes, you know, so like the pain goes away and it is what it is, right? And the friend is just finally happy to see him because he was missing him, you know? So yeah, this is Algedon. It's much more poetic. Phobos. Phobos in Greek means fear, nothing more than that. Of course, I say nothing more than that, but there is a lot more than that. You see, Phobos was a Greek god in ancient Greece, and he was the god of fear. There was also Panikos, which means terror. You guys know it in English as panic. It comes from the Greek word panikos. It was a Greek deity as well. Both of them were not very good deities that you would want to have by your side. In direct contrast to Hades, who was not a mean guy. Okay, like Hades in Greece was he was the most normal of the three brothers, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. But we will move away from that. Astral Flow is, as I told you guys, the ability that is not Greek whatsoever. Like, it says that it will rise place into the air and rotate the entire arena, okay? It was the spinny ability, yes? Unfortunately, or fortunately, this is not ours, I cannot speak about this. But what I can mention is the final ability, Adikia. Zodiark will slam each half of the arena with a large circle AoE one by one, hitting the west side first and then east in quick succession. Safe spots for both hits are in the direct north and south of the arena. Okay, what does Adikia mean? Injustice. Exactly translated from that. Now, I don't really understand why. I mean, it is unjust when he just schmack it and you have to go there to just, you know, survive the ability, right? And after all, what did befell Zodiark if not utter injustice? You see, Falafel imposed and enforced his will and himself on this mindless, not mindless, heartless. He did not have a heart. We killed his heart, Elidibus, right? Heartless being. And in the end, what happened was the definition of injustice. Zodiark didn't choose to do what he did. Zodiark does not choose to kill us, Falafel does. And this here signals the end of all the abilities that Zodiark has. We have two rivers from the underworld, two rivers that serve different purposes, okay? We have Paradeigma, example, we have Ania, which is the innate state of boredom. We have Algedon, we have Phobos, we have Adikia. And with that, I think we are going to end this part. If you're watching on YouTube, by the way, a massive thank you and a happy new year to YouTube. This stream took place in the second day of January 2023. If you enjoyed what you're watching, please leave me a comment asking for more, because I really want to know if you guys actually enjoy these things, this extra knowledge. And there are a lot of Greek elements in Final Fantasy XIV, as you guys might be able to gather by all the videos that I have done in the past. If you like the video, I would appreciate a like. If you want more of these things, just literally subscribe and so on and so forth. But even if you do nothing of the above, thank you for watching.